You're going to start with a small medium onion, but because I didn't have a normal onion, I used green onions. So I put those in the bottom of my Instant Pot. Next, you're going to add 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of shredded carrots. Just make sure you don't add more than 1/2 cup. Next, you're going to add 4 cups of broccoli, all chopped up. And then on top of that, you're going to add 3 cups of chicken broth. Now for the seasoning, you're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and then 1 tablespoon of hot sauce. I'm just using red hot sauce. It's my favorite. All right, and that is it for now. So you're going to put the lid on. Please excuse my dirty lid. I made something right before this. And you're going to make sure that little knob is turned to sealing. Then you're going to push the pressure cook or the manual button and go down to 3 minutes. Now after you set your timer, you're going to wait a few seconds and then your Instant Pot's going to beep and it's going to say on. That means you're doing it right, so go ahead and walk away from your Instant Pot. Now when it's all done cooking, it will say L and it will start counting up. So this has been done cooking for about 3 minutes. I'm going to switch it over to a quick release, take the lid off, and my soup smells absolutely delicious. I'm going to use a potato masher and just kind of mash up my broccoli because I don't want huge chunks in my broccoli soup. Next, you're going to add 1.5 cups of cream. Well, that's what the recipe calls for, but I'm actually going to add 1.5 cups of milk so it's a little bit healthier. If you want this to be a creamy soup, make sure you use cream. If you don't really care and it's a little thinner, you can use just normal milk. And the last thing to add is 2 cups of cheddar cheese. The soup is still really hot, so I'm just going to mix this around and the cheese will melt into it. Now if you want to thicken it up a little bit, you can push cancel and then saute and get rid of that extra liquid to have it more chunky, but obviously I used milk, so it's going to be a little thinner. If you use the cream, it will be a lot thicker for you. Now on top I added a little bit more cheddar cheese and a few more green onions. Start by pushing the saute button. We're going to brown the meat. Now I'm using ground turkey because that's one of my favorite things to cook with. You can use ground beef if you want. Now I have this little thing called a chop and stir. It's a game changer when cooking your meat. When your meat is browned, you're going to add 1 7-ounce can of diced green chilies, 1 10-ounce can of rotel tomatoes, 1 can of corn, and I left most of the liquid in there, 1 can of black beans, which I did rinse, and then 1 can of garbanzo beans. Then we're going to add 1 can of diced tomatoes. Now it's time to add some of the spices. I'm going to start with 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and I'm kind of just eyeballing this, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Same, just kind of eyeballing. Next we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Now I had 1/2 teaspoon, so I had to add 2 here. And 1 packet of ranch dressing mix. Now I know that sounds weird, but it makes it taste so good. Then you're also going to add 1 package of taco seasoning. I like to use mild. Then we're going to add 4 cups of chicken broth. This is soup, so now we really need to make it into soup. So 4 cups. So I just mixed it up just a little bit before I put the lid on, just so all the dry spices will be moist. Now it's time to put the lid on. Make sure that it's sealed all the way, and you're going to turn that little knob to sealing, not venting. Then, because it's the saute button, you have to push cancel first. Then you're going to push pressure cook, and you're going to go all the way down to 5 minutes. Because our meat's already cooked, we just need to make it warm. When it's ready to go, it will say on. That means you've done it right. Alright, when it is all the way done, I did a quick release to let the steam out pretty quickly, and it was all perfectly heated through and delicious. I like to add cheese, sour cream, even some tortilla strips on top of my loaded taco soup. Now, if you want to cook your hamburger in your Instant Pot, you can. All you have to do is push the saute button, put your meat in there. I would also put your onions in there, and you'll cook them together. I cooked my meat in advance. I'll put a link in the description for you on how to cook it inside your Instant Pot. Now, onto the chili. I have 1 pound of cooked ground beef. I have 3 stalks of celery that I chopped up, and then 1 whole onion. You don't have to use a whole onion. I just like onions, so I like to do the whole thing. On top of that, you're going to add 1 can of kidney beans. I use dark kidney beans and I drained them, rinsed them and drained them. Then you have 8 ounces of tomato sauce and 2 cans of diced tomatoes just thrown right on top. Now with one of those cans of diced tomatoes, I just filled up about half a cup of water and dumped it in the pot. Now the next thing is 1/4 cup of ketchup. You can measure if you want. I just always eyeball my ketchup. This next step is optional, but my mom always does it, so you add 1 tablespoon of sugar. Then 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire, lots of comments about that one. You can say it how you want. I call it Worcestershire sauce. So you can mix it around a little bit if you want to, but it's all pressurizing together, so I just put the lid on. Make sure your little knob is on sealing, not venting. Then I'm using, of course, the manual button, so if you have a different Instant Pot, you use pressure cook, just anything to make it pressurized, just normal. And you're going to cook it for 10 minutes. Now you can turn the knob and let the pressure release, or you can let it release on its own. Now the chili is all the way done. You're going to just mix it up a little bit, and when you serve it, add your favorite toppings. I love cheese and corn chips. I'm going to start by adding 2 cans of canned chicken. Now you can use rotisserie chicken, you can also use just thawed chicken or frozen chicken. I'll tell you how to do that in just a second. So right now I'm just going to add my 2 cans of already cooked chicken into the bottom of my pot. Next you're going to add 1 pound of carrots. I just use the bag carrots, but you can use other carrots too. The recipe called for a can of corn, so I just cut up 2 ears of corn. And then also 1/2 onion, and I'm just going to dump that on top of the carrots. Next, I added 6 cups of chicken broth. So I had a carton, which is 4 cups, and then a can, which is 2. If you feel like you need more chicken broth, you can go ahead and add 1 to 2 more cups of chicken broth. Then I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of green onions, all chopped up. Now for the spices, I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a little bit of salt and pepper just for taste. Now, if you have pre-cooked chicken, you're going to add your egg noodles right now, and everything's just going to cook together. So I added a whole bag. It was a lot of noodles. If you don't want that many noodles, I would probably do 1/2 bag or 3/4 of a bag. So right now I'm just mixing it a little bit before I put the lid on. The noodles don't have to be covered. Alright, so my lid is on, make sure it's on sealing, not venting, and I'm gonna go to 5 minutes. Now here's the trick. If you want to cook thawed chicken that's not cooked yet, you're going to don't put any vegetables in yet, and you're gonna go up to 20 minutes and just cook your chicken broth and your chicken. Then the last 5 minutes, you're gonna put everything else back in and cook the rest for 5 minutes. If your chicken is cooked, you're gonna cook it all just for 5 minutes at the same time. I did a quick release there, so let all the steam out. Then once all the steam's out, you can open your lid and your chicken noodle soup is all done. I love that if you have pre-cooked chicken, it only takes 5 minutes to throw this recipe together.